Huge welcome to everyone today. Clearly you're all big winners. You're already here. My name's Vicky. I'm otherwise known as Rock Chick, but that's another story. And do excuse me for reading, but when I was at school I actually couldn't read, so I like to make the most of it. I bought my first property when I was in my 20s, and it was in a fairly low socio-economic area, where I just happened to be a prison officer at the time, so that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of what the area was like. I sold that property when I was 38 to buy a property in the most expensive suburb in New Zealand. I never get hung up about where I invest in property. Anywhere's a good place. I'm now 58, and among other business investments, I own around 15 properties. So as a 16-year-old high school dropout, you might say I'm quite successful financially. But honest to God, a large amount of that is thanks to one man. So it really is a privilege to introduce an exceptional man whose remarkable leadership, vision, dedication and unwavering commitment to excellence have set the foundation for growth and have propelled Remax in both New Zealand and Fiji. As Chief Executive Officer, Don has steered the company through ever-changing landscapes, consistently charting a course towards innovation and expansion. With an astute business acumen and a keen understanding of emerging trends, his strategic decisions have shaped the organisation into a driving force within the industry. Starting his real estate career in 1994, Don has gone through the journey of being top salesperson in his company, becoming a franchise owner, and ultimately a multi-region owner. Don has personally sold well over $1 billion worth of real estate in his career. He leads a company which saw a 60% growth in sales for 2021, growing the network by more than 70% for the first time ever, transcending over $1.2 billion in sales turnover. Today, his company controls over $5 billion worth of real estate. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome our Honorary Don Hart.
Might not be there. Pretty sure Becky can speak that well. I can speak well. I'll be still listening.
The other one.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming today. My name is Don Hart. I'm from Auckland, New Zealand. I'm the CEO of Remax New Zealand. Also, recently we acquired the Remax Fiji Master Franchise, and the collaboration of today with GCT Properties, Remax Haley's branch here, and also Remax Revolution right across the road. Our branch in New Zealand is also called Revolution. How about that? So. And the reason why it's called Revolution is we want to revolutionize the way investment is done, business, sales, and that's why I chose a Revolution name, because I want to create a revolution. So you here today, because you care about investment property, create revolution, change your investment, your retirement goal, and also to break the cycle, because knowing how to do it is so easy. When you don't know how, it becomes so hard. So I just want to give you a backtrack about my story, where I started and how I got here. So that gives you a bit of idea that maybe where you are right now is not as bad where I was then. So then you can actually do things much better and faster because of the knowledge that we have learned over the past 30 years. The mistake we have made, and now we can fine-tune it so that we can fast-track you to your property investment, wealth creation, and retirement. So we've got some visitors here today. We're going to have a mortgage broker and also a team of legals here as well. But I'm going to play with this. you would recognize some of those iconic cities and landmarks around the world. The Remax is one of the largest real estate companies in the world. They're over 115 countries now and 145,000 agents. And coming up, they're going to get to 200,000. So basically, every 1 minute, Remax worldwide sells 4 houses. It's crazy. So today's purpose to show you that is to show you that you're part of the network that's worldwide and you're part of the connection. Say for example you want to move to Turkey and you don't know anyone, well, we can help. We can dial our Remax office there, our agents there. There's like 3,000 agents in Turkey. Even you yourself needing employment or your children that travel somewhere like that. And even at a point where they get in trouble in certain countries, there's a Remax there that we can align to be able to assist you. The product and services of Remax is not just about real estate, it's about business connection, people, and worldwide friendship. I joined Remax for that reason was when I was an independent. I was an independent real estate company, and when Remax came along and they said to me, 1 lot of wood makes a lousy fire, 1,000 lot of wood makes a great fire. And I just thought, that makes so much sense to me because I'm on my own, I always have to reinvent myself and looking for new systems. And it's the same as you now, if you're an individual looking to invest, you've got to think, know how all that stuff. We have 1,000 lot of wood fighters to assist you, to help you. We've got finance, lawyers, location, rental return, property management, to be able to guide you through these processes so that investing is a team, it's not an individual. So then also the second thing Remax said was we can take you to the world. I said, I don't need you. I don't need you. And then Remax said, well, we can take you to the world. So I wanted to go to the world and pay someone to door lock to each country so I can reach these countries. But Remax, I joined Remax, all of a sudden the world is right in my hand. So in 2021, I have achieved the #1 global status, selling the most units in the world from Auckland, New Zealand, okay? Against the US currency on top of that, because our currency gets converted. I rank #1. I rank #1 because I always believe I'm the best in the world. And I joined Remax to see if I can become the best in the world. Well, I have achieved that. Okay, how do I achieve that? Is repeat my message once and sell it 1,000 times. Okay, today I'm talking to 30 of you here today. I'm looking on one-on-one. After that, you've got the idea, you go home, you tell your family and so on, and it spreads and spreads on that basis. So the Remax network right now, between Australia and New Zealand, we have over 100 offices and over 700 sales agents. So you can go Melbourne, Sydney, anywhere in Australia. There's 75 offices in Australia. Hayley there, she's the #1 office in Brisbane, Queensland. Great group, limitless group, they call themselves. There is no limit to what she wants to achieve. So here's me. When we first come to New Zealand from Vietnam as a refugee, okay, in 1980, I was a 12-year-old boy, speaking no English. We had sponsorship that sponsored our home here. Okay, so this is a 4-bedroom state home, government house. There's 7 of us. We had to pay $120 a week for it. And we share a 4-bedroom house with 1 shower over the bath. Here's my bedroom right here. There's 3 of us in this. We had a bunk bed and 3 of us in that bedroom there. No garage. Same house still there today. Okay, except the garage burned down. Okay, except that house was $17,000 in 1980. $17,000. Today it's like $1 million. So the question is, does the property double in value every 10 years? You work it out. Okay, go back 10 years ago, how much was your house was worth? How much your neighbor's house was worth? Does it double in value every 10 years? Well, yes it does. Who pays for the mortgage? If you have it rented out and it's cash flow today, Geoff later will show you who paid for the mortgage. The question is, right now in your position, would you save $1 million in 10 years? Would you save $500,000 in 10 years if you do exactly the same right now? Or would you let somebody else save you $500,000 or $1 million in 10 years by investing in property? After 4 years, we bought our very first home here in Babatoi for $54,000. Okay, after 4 years, come to New Zealand, no money. We worked together very, very quickly. There were like 4 working adults, and then we bought our first home. Okay, here then in 1991, I was 23 or 4. I bought my very first home here for $42,000. And I didn't have any guidance. I just went and bought this home. It was a mortgagee sale. I didn't know what mortgagee sale means, so that's the best thing when you don't understand English, okay? You don't know what mortgagee sale means. It means that you buy the house as is, where it is, you've got to kick the tenant out, and if they rent the house, it's your problem. Well, I didn't understand all of that. I just went and bought a house for $42,000. Luckily, there were no tenant in there, okay? So, here's the thing. This house is now worth $1.4 million. You work it out, that's probably double in value every 10 years. It's more than double in value. Why? Because it has some land, and then it can now be transformed into terrace housing zones. And I thought that was my dream, was to buy this home, get married. I knew I was going to have 3 kids for some reason. I had exactly 3 kids. And I thought that was my dream home, that I'm going to live in there, work in the bakery, and be happy forever. Okay, that's because the refugee mind and the parents of a refugee mind say, that's all you deserve. Work hard in the family shop, buy a house, get married, have 3 kids. Well, one thing they got it right was 3 kids, but not living in that house. I never lived in that house. Today, the bedroom of my house is big as this one house. Okay, that's the difference. That's the difference by multi-investment in properties and things like that, and have increment wealth. Some of the property now my brother bought of Geoff here about 5 years back, they now has gone up like even 400,000-500,000. And here's I am here standing in Las Vegas getting my #1 global award by the CEO of Remax Global. You can achieve, but you can't achieve if you don't make a start. Small increment with great passion will achieve greater success. Today, I know you're already successful in your own right. You already got property, got a home. But there's nothing wrong owning 5 homes, 10 homes, 20 or 40. Okay, at one point, I had 4 people in my car, and between 4 people, we own like 200 properties. 4 people in one car. It's okay to own 10 properties. It's okay to own 5 properties. It's okay to own $5 million properties. It's okay to own $10 million properties. And it's okay to be worth $20 million in the next 12 years. The rich gets richer because they keep on acquiring property. 70% of world wealth makes out of properties. Same to Australians. Same. Okay, so you can do this. This is the Remax here, all the country around the world. And this is where we are right now. We're in New Zealand. We're also now in Fiji. How is it that a 12-year-old refugee can achieve this, dominate the Pacific, New Zealand market, and can be able to go and sell to the world? It's because knowledge, connection, teamwork, take action, be fearless. Okay, the bank approved your loan today to buy a property. You're not the risk anymore. The bank is the risk because they already assess your income, your equity, the rental repayment. If they already say you can't do it, well, fear will hold you back. That's all. Fear will hold you back. This is Remax Australia here. They're doing great. Okay, this is the chairman of Remax Australia, Michael, when he sold the franchise to me. Our company here achieved now $1 billion. I always wanted $1 billion company, now I have it. I had dreams when I was 19, drive through McDonald's drive-through. I always want to employ 100 staff, and I always want a company that turns over, never dream of turn over $1 billion. But I knew I wanted 100 staff today. Our company provides employment for over 300 staff, and yes, we're doing $1 billion a year and more. Here's our recent Remax Fiji opening. That was just only happened 3 weeks ago. So, that just gives you a quick recap about me, my life story, and I hope you'll be inspired by that. I'll be around and also be questioning some of Geoff's presentation today. So, Geoff, please come up. Welcome, Geoff, everybody. Oh,
I'm actually not supposed to, well, I am supposed to be introducing you, but I just wanted to say, Hayley said that my accent was quite fresh, and I'd like to say, man, I've been on the Gold Coast for 18 months. How can you pick that accent? But when I came to the Gold Coast from Auckland, I was staying at the Star Casino, and I thought, wow, I better find somewhere to live. I can't live in this hotel forever, although it was quite nice. So I contacted Don and said, oh, do you know anybody that, that I can speak to about, renting somewhere? because I'd started to apply for rentals, and of course I hadn't rented since I was a teenager. So I'd come from New Zealand. I didn't have any references. And of course we all know the rental crisis, and so I was having no luck whatsoever. So Don said, go and see this man Geoff Tomkins. So I met up with Geoff this particular day and said, man, I need somewhere to live. Anyway, I'm rolling back in to Surfers Paradise. I'm going to stop here and get some lunch. Did that. By that afternoon, that very afternoon, Geoff, I'll have you know, I had a very nice apartment on the water in Surfers Paradise. And the rest is history. Come on down, Geoff.
Thank you, Becky. Thanks for the conversation. Yeah, so I've had a long-term relationship with Don, and it's been a great journey. I think probably the biggest lesson I've learned in property and investing in property, I've never regretted buying a property for investment purposes, only regretted selling. So one thing I thought we should just buy and hold. But I know circumstances, life gets in the way sometimes, we get very busy. And when Don showed you that growth in property prices over the long-term averages, it's very strong. We simply can't say the average home income, we simply can't say better amount of money. So dream big, I think it's great philosophy. So residents, only 20% of the population own investment properties. As Don mentioned, get a mentor, someone that's been there and done that, success leaves clues. For sports people to achieve greatness, they all have coaches. They have coaches for a reason, no different from property. If you can learn the mistakes that Don and myself have made over the years, and the wealth and knowledge that we've gained from that, you'll be a lot further ahead of the game. And speak to and take advice. Don't take advice from the media, the sensationalised news articles. Take advice from people that have actually got skin in the game, investing in real estate. Lastly, they're buying property, so your own home is based on emotion, the location, does it suit the family, my lifestyle. The investment property really should be based on the numbers and the figures. That's the wealth creation journey that we're talking about. So, the first question you should ask anyone that you take advice from in terms of property, have they bought property themselves and how has it panned out? So these are just a few case studies. So on the left, that was a dual occupancy property, paid 600, actually paid 592 for that. Property next door was just a dual oc sold just recently for 850, so 250,000 in 5 years. I couldn't save that amount of money. Property on the right hand side, this was a brand new built property, plus the land built for my daughter actually to live in. So I'm using the same builders and same strategy for my family as I would do for my clients as well. That property's worth about 850,000 now in a very short time. We've come through a very strong price growth, but that's some of the results that you can achieve. So this is a property that Don asked me to find property a few years ago for his brother and sister. This is me as property, paid 465,000 for a new custom land build. And you can see the core logic valuation that I did today, this week at 705,000. So now 240,000 equity is pretty good without having to put any.
So I just want to, my brother, I asked him about his properties and I said, what's happening to your Australian property? He said, I don't even know about it. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it pays for itself and I haven't even done my tax return on it. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I don't know. Because he's got more property in New Zealand than he's got property here in Australia. He didn't even care about it. I said, what rent are you getting? He said, he's getting now, key guys, the demand for rental and here in Queensland, you can't get rentals anymore. He was getting 480 now, it's gone to 680. Wow. And he's getting 680 now. And he said they just put the rate up by this much. I don't know why. I can tell you the reason why. There's 400,000 people are migrating to Australia, okay? They need 5,000 construction workers right now in Australia. They are pinching all the Kiwis coming over. Even the policemen, $20,000 new policemen over, even the doctors. The next 35 years, Australia is proposed to have its property increased by 40 million. Okay? 40 million, can you believe it? So I personally want to invest 20 million in the next few years into Queensland because this is going to be a fast track growth here in Queensland itself. The stats tells us that 192,000 moves to Queensland.
Yeah, 200,000 permanent residents were approved in this calendar year alone.
They can't build enough houses in this city, guys. This is your time. Okay, let's say go back 8 years ago. It's not as fast, but this, you want the perfect storm, this is the perfect storm for you to get into. You want to fast track your wealth or make up your loss of wealth for that reason. This is the time for you to do that.
So we talked about the growth in Queensland, and most of you will be aware of what's happening. And you shouldn't go back 1 or 2 years, you back over the long-term growth of property. As Don alluded to, doubling every sort of 7 to 10 years, that's a long-term average in many capital cities in Australia. So we're not talking about those small regional areas, but we're capital cities where it's very safe and secure. You can see the growth there in Brisbane, 30 years, 389% growth, which is pretty phenomenal. Greater Brisbane, so we know the Olympics is only 9 years away, and if you go back in history and look at when Sydney hosted the Olympic Games in 2000, that showed very strong price growth in those years leading up and after the Olympics because of that. It's not because of it's just necessarily because of the Olympic Games, it's the infrastructure they're building. So in Queensland, southeast Queensland, they're building all this infrastructure to cater for this population growth. And if you look at the price growth over the last 30 years, you can see very strong growth there. So it's year on year will vary a bit, but when you look at the long-term average, doubling sort of every 10 years. The latest CoreLogic data, what's happening in Brisbane, so you can see the median price is 825,000, and we saw 2.3% growth last month in July, which is pretty phenomenal. So we saw a very stagnant property market with those interest rates rises, but what we're seeing now is as those rates have plateaued, we're seeing confidence come back into the market. So if you're looking to make money out of real estate, those figures tell you that the market's really turned. So again, don't listen to those sensationalised news articles. Listen, look at the real facts. Rental crisis is real. We all know stories of people struggling, as Vicky alluded to earlier. It's not one part of Brisbane or the Gold Coast or Logan or Ipswich. It's pretty much all of southeast Queensland. Southeast Queensland is the fastest growing region in Australia, population growth. So we're seeing staggering midwives, as you mentioned on your brother's property. There was a house and land. I organised the builder, the finance, the property manager, the solicitor, the accountant. So again, it's having those professionals that can work with, and obviously the property's going very, very well. National vacancy rate sits below 2%, so they consider 3% a tight rental market. Most of southeast Queensland, it's around about that 1% figure. Population, so as mentioned, the Australian government's approved 400,000 new permanent residents into Australia in this calendar year. On top of that, we've also, 200,000. On top of that, we've got students coming back into Australia and expats coming back as well. So they're forecasting to grow by about 400,000, which is massive. And as you can see there, the Queensland population growth, 2% is the strongest region in Australia in terms of growth. And these people have to buy or rent somewhere. Positive cash flow, so I know we're seeing higher interest rates now, and the way to really overcome that holding cost is to increase the yield on the property. So some key tips there, and these are things I look for in my own property acquisitions: growth locations, low vacancy rate, talked about that, properties with multiple incomes, so you're getting more than one rental income strategy, higher net yield, so we look at gross yields and then we take all the costs off and we look at the net yield, and properties with a little bit of a unique factor. So we're comparing a standard house to this co-living concept that we're going to go into in today's presentation. So buy an existing house, we've all bought those for investment, 650,000 purchase, rent about 570 a week, or co-living for about 740,000 investment, we're getting about 900 a week in rent.
Let me just go over my experience on owning the left house versus the right house. So at one point I owned 100 of these properties. Okay, so what happened there was we go for our comfort position. Our comfort position is we felt like we can buy a cheaper property because we can afford something cheaper. We feel like that we should buy something that in our neighborhood that we live in or someone we know, and the tenant that we feel that we can deal with. But there were mistakes made there, and my investment was it needs a lot of repairs. The older properties, the tax deduction was not the same, and then the tenant will get in arrears, and in a year you might get maybe 6 to 10 weeks vacancy, and you get a bad tenant and it damages the property. I'm not sure about here, but in Auckland and South Auckland in particular, they even steal your hot water cylinder, they take the copper out, they sell it, they cut it, and then they flood the whole house. It's a terrible experience. So my mistake I made was I invest too much in a property that I feel comfort with. Okay, these property here, they in the subdivision, they got covenant, they got control, they got quality construction, and they have special property management company to manage them. So to reverse the road, what I do differently today, I own more of these properties than these ones. In fact, some of these ones I don't even rent them out anymore in New Zealand. I just left them empty because they were multi-development sites. So I go back and build new houses on it. I'm not interested in the left side property. If you got them, you can still upgrade them, revalue them, redevelop them, use it equally, and eventually you can have a balance of 70 new, 30 old, or 50-50, things like that. Because that's my personal experience on the older property. Because let's just take now, and in 10 years time when you sell the property, that one there is 10 years old, this one here will be 60 years old. Okay, that's a comparison, and it's repair and maintenance, things like that.
Really good point, Don, and I've been through the same journey myself in properties in New Zealand, then moving to Australia, held older properties and had one on the Gold Coast, and it was always around there working on it, things breaking, the maintenance was just a nightmare. So my strategy now, my last year property acquisition, to be brand new properties. Just touching up that, I remember that one interesting point is in terms of the depreciation. So depreciation is the tax benefits we get from the property. The ATO changed the law about 2 years ago, and if a property is more than 1 day old, you can't claim depreciation on the fixtures and fittings. And that could be a few thousand a year, so you lose that. So if you buy a brand new property, you're entitled to the depreciation on the fixtures and fittings, which is all the internal fittings. But if the property is more than 1 day old, you can't claim that. So that makes a big difference in terms of your cash flow. So the co-living, we're going to cover that concept today in more detail. So this is where we can have a maximum of 3 individual tenants in one property, which is how we can achieve that $900 a week. So if we built that new property as a 4-bedroom home, rented it out to a family, we'd probably get around about $700 a week. As a co-living, 3 individual tenants, $300 per room, $900 a week, massive increase. And is there demand for single room accommodation? So we've done some research on what single people are looking for in shared accommodation, and that's a bigger changing demographic. So we're looking for trends, what's happening in the market, and what's going to happen over the next 10 years. I'm sure we all know people that have been separated, single people that never get into a relationship. And these are people on just average incomes that are really struggling now, as Vicky mentioned, to find rental accommodation. And my own daughter, she's on her own now, and I've had to put her into one of my investment properties onto the one side of the dual lock because she can't find a rental property. So what are the single tenants looking for? So we've done a survey on the typical tenant for co-living. Average age is 33 years of age. They're staying for about 4 to 5 years, and generally willing to pay $50 a week more than a standard house, and we'll cover the reasons why. And when you visit the co-home living today, you'll see for yourself the benefits. So some of the big positives, they've got their own ensuite bathrooms, so it's very secure. Lockable pantries, so each of the 3 tenants have their own lockable pantry. Owner can't live in the property, and the tenants can't have partners stay over or children or pets. So there's only 3 maximum people. So people say, what do you do about parking and how does that all work? So the co-living only has a maximum of 3 people living in that home, which is less than a family home.
So let's just think for a minute here, who's going to be a co-living, meaning that you've got a bedroom and you're living in a house with a bedroom. So let's just go back to this 400,000 migration people that's coming here now, right? So all of a sudden you can't afford to pay $800 for a house. Say you need a room, well, it's available for you. Say you're a manager traveling and migrating to a city, it's available for you. Say you just got divorced, got kicked out of the house by your wife or husband, you need a place to go to. You've got nowhere to put your furniture whatsoever. You sell everything up, you come into here. The demand for these co-living in New Zealand has gone off the roof. Okay, this is only a new introduction that coming here to now Queensland, which is really good. I believe this thing will catch on, and there will be 100 and 100, if more. But one good thing, Geoff, these subdivision, they only allow like 15 or so, or 10 in one subdivision.
Yeah, correct. So the covenants and the estates limit the amount of co-living properties available, which is a good thing. So it's on, fully furnished, so that it's very easy for the tenant to move in. You can see why they're willing to pay $50 a week more than if they're sharing a house, standard house, because the properties are fully furnished. They have their own bedroom, air conditioning unit in the bedroom, and they're built close to infrastructure, which is really important. So that's the floor plan of a co-living property, which, as you can see there, it's very similar to a standard home. It's built under the same classification of 1A construction, so there's no special land requirements, street frontages. Generally it can be built in many areas. So it's essentially each bedroom has its own ensuite. We generally will make the bedrooms larger, and they're fully furnished, so they have bedside cabinets, beds, TVs on the wall, so when the tenant moves in, as Don said, it's very easy for the tenants to move straight in. And I was in that situation that you mentioned, and these would be the perfect opportunity. So en-suites, we can build them as a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. This one's got a media room, like you see, it's got a built-in wardrobe. So if we want to sell it, when we come to retirement, we sell it as a standard 4-bedroom home. So you get the best of both worlds. You get that stronger cash flow, income, plus you get the benefit of capital growth because it's a standard home, as opposed to those higher income type properties which are sometimes limited for resale. So standard home, a few little differences there. We've got digital locks on the doors, so it's very secure on each of the bedrooms. Digital lock on the front door, so when the tenants move out, we don't have to get locksmith in like a traditional house. The tenant has done the wrong thing, keeps the keys, we just change the digital lock, they can't get access. And the tenants love it because no one can get into their bedroom, they've got that security, So, very secure. So now we're doing a comparison of a typical house that we showed earlier, old town versus co-living property. These are approximate figures, and please remember today we're just doing generic figures. Everyone's individual purchase position will be different. So these are just some generic figures we've used for today's presentation. So property on the left, that's $640,000 home. Rental income, 30k, tax savings, we'll get a little bit of tax savings on the building depreciation. Total income about 32,000, and then we've got the loan again. We've just got some very generic figures there. So a loan using about 100,000 deposit, just roughly. Loan about 33,000 a year, and property expenses about 8,000. So property expenses. So if anyone's new to property investment, the owner will pay the rates, insurance, property management costs, etc. So that 8,000 comes from landlord's insurance. So yearly outgoings about 41. We've got a shortfall there of about $9,000 a year. And what's that, about $180 a week negatively here. So, it's costing you money to own that property. On the right, as a comparison, we've got a much stronger rental income. We're spending more on the property, but we've got a much stronger rental income at $900 per week. We've got stronger tax savings, as I mentioned, the depreciation and all the expenses we can claim from a new property. We've got the loan costs there, and we've got the bigger loan, but property expenses of 12,000, so we've got yearly outgoings of about 53, so 2,000 a year positive here. So massive difference in terms of cash flow.
Go back to that slide again, Geoff. There's a point in time where you hate properties. There's a point in time where you say property doesn't work for me. Okay? It doesn't work for you if you focus on the left side. Why I say that to you? Imagine you got 5 of these properties, you negative gear by 45,000 a year and your tax and cash flow purpose, and if 5 of them goes vacant at once, then you'll be saying like, I'm working for my property, I save $1,000 a week and I've got to pay $1,500 into it. I hate property investment. It's because your class of property choice was wrong. Okay, now I've been there too. I've been there. And what happened is, a lot of accountants will teach you to go for negative gearing property so you can get a tax advantage. But what happened if you lose your job? What happened if your business is not making a profit? Then all of a sudden there's no advantage. Then you begin, I'm selling up. So what happened when you sell up? You end up selling a fire sale because you need the money really, really quickly. So I discourage the left screen because of negative gearing. Okay, negative gearing is really good if you have some other businesses supported, so you can write it off. But if you only own 3 properties, 4 properties, husband, wife, work, relying on negative gearing, it will kill you, it will destroy you, it will make you mentally hate properties, and it will give you the wrong advice. Okay, the right property, you go to work every day, your tenant pays you, you get increase every day. Next year you come, you check it. Wow, this is working for me. Then you want to buy more of it. So if you've got too many of that left screen, eliminate them, sell some of them up, replace some of them with better class property cash flow. Okay, right now in New Zealand, our interest rate gone to 8%. For example, the guy that owns 30 of the left one on the screen, he can't stand it. He can't keep his repayment. The government in our country has taken out all the depreciation rights. He can't write off his tax anymore. Oh my God, he's in a disaster mode. Okay, so there's lessons learned here in my 30 years of experience. Okay, I now work 70 hours a week, over 120,000 hours. So you don't just come here today to hear someone who just standing up and present to you. I've got these examples of win, losers, what works, what doesn't work. I'm shortcutting your process today, that's what I'm doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. And it was a really good valid point. My dual occupancy property, when I built it a few years ago, the rent was $775 a week. Today it's $1,005. So, you know, the cost or the return will only get stronger. It's just having that foresight and that confidence to invest in the right type of property, and you'll see that long-term growth, because the rents, as we know, are continuing to rise at quite a staggering rate. So in terms of the co-living, this is a very specialised product. You really need a builder that understands how to build it. So your question would be, you know, who's going to build these properties? So we have a very good quality builder called Gallery Homes, been in the industry a long time. They're based on the Gold Coast and Century Cove. And to give people confidence that, you know, we all heard stories about certain builders. I've been building for many years for myself and my clients, my family, and we've never had any issues with the builder. So it's about aligning with a good partner that you're going to go through completion, build on time. And to overcome these concerns, Gallo offered an awesome build guarantee, and it's a pretty impressive guarantee. So as long as once the land's registered, they're guaranteeing they'll be on site within 4 weeks, which is pretty impressive. And they'll build your home within 18 weeks, and there'll be a penalty clause to the builder if they don't build within that process. So that's a very good, gives you peace of mind, gives you confidence, the reason why I would recommend this builder for co-living. And they're building these properties themselves, they're renting them out now, so they understand the demand. And they went to the market and did some research on what people were looking for in terms of co-living, hence why that product you saw is so well designed. So we don't want to go, any builder that doesn't understand the concept, we need to build it correctly, make sure it's compliant. So a bit about Gallo, you can do the research on them, been around a long time. The numbers of builds just keep increasing. They own their own land estates as well, so they're a medium to large builder, so you're not dealing with a private builder, you're dealing with a bigger company. Projects they've delivered over the last few years, quite staggering there. Emmett? Play this video. This is a testimonial that I use, that the clients that we built through the same builder, just to give you the confidence.
One more click, Geoff, and not work.
Welcome everyone, we're just here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon and just meeting with lovely clients Helen and Russell, just moved into their new home. Just looking for feedback and how they've found the experience of working with us at the company over the last 12 months.
Yeah, look, we found Geoff on Facebook. We've been long-term renters. Didn't have a whole lot of money saved up, but we had enough. So we asked Geoff to see if we could qualify for a loan. And 14 months later, here we are sitting in a beautiful 4-bedroom, brand new home, absolutely tickled to death. If you've got any worries whatsoever, see Geoff, there's no comparison. We have no issues, none, not any. And I know that's hard to believe, hand on the heart, that's how it was. And we've been here a month, everything's to a very, very, very high standards. And we've even had our neighbours compliment our home, which is really nice to hear as well. So if it wasn't for Geoff, we wouldn't be here right now.
Thank you, Russell. Very kind. Great to see you guys into your own home after many years of renting. I know it was a long process, and I noticed for others though have had issues with finance, but that's probably the biggest challenge at the moment. I know when we first met, you weren't confident we could get a loan.
Yeah, I wasn't. I would have lost that bit. But now you came through with flying colours and put us on with the right people to get us the right loan, and then we're just ecstatic, aren't we? We just love it.
Right, yeah. So that was a great example. Went through the same builder that we're talking about today. They were renting, been renting, long-term renters, almost at retirement age. and when I went and saw them, they loved the idea of owning their own asset, but just really didn't know how. So it's not just the property, it's not just the finance, it's the whole team. We've got a finance specialist here today that's going to cover that. It is important to have a team to work together because
How much that house is worth now?
it's probably worth, he paid just over 500,000 as a package.
Yep.
Probably worth about 700 now, and that was only, they moved in at Christmas just gone.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, they said that they were renting, they never be able to think they can save up the deposit and buy a home. Now all of a sudden they got 200,000 equity. If they didn't buy the property, they'd still be renting.
Yep.
And there's no 200,000 equity. So just give you an example. Time, you're buying time really, the big thing is about time.
Oh, totally. And they would, the way that, they wouldn't be able to get a loan now, the property market has made great equity, so it's a good story. And absolutely, if they were younger, they could use that investment property to use equity to build their property portfolio. And the rent from their property they moved out of was an old house, which was pretty run down. They were getting very cheap rent. They actually told me after that the rent, the owner went in and did some renovations and their rent would have doubled. So just taking that journey. So if anyone that doesn't own property looking to get into their first home, we can help you. So that was a great result using the same builder, so they were very happy. So we're talking about co-living, we talked about the concept, we looked at the cash flow. We know that Southeast Queensland is the fastest growing region in Australia. We know the infrastructure going in is massive. So the properties that we're going to have available today, we're going to have a range, but we've got a great estate where we're going to go and visit very close to that. It's in the Logan area, so it's at Marsden. So in terms of the property, the location, there's the massive development for the logistics centre called Maple Tree, so it's a major employment. So when you're investing in real estate, you want to make sure there's rental demand. So building close to infrastructure is really, really important. So you're right in the heart of this property, you've got a lot of infrastructure already in. So we've only got 7 of these properties available. The previous estate that we were going to present today is actually sold out. We were going to, and you'll see that. People have moved in, renting, owning properties. This is a brand new estate that hasn't been released to the market, so we've got first access. You'll have access to those properties today. So close to Logan Hospital, the Crestmead Industrial Complex, and the Griffith University TAFE. It's all quite close. So demand in the suburbs, so again we talked about that vacancy rate. 3% is considered a fairly tight vacancy rate. So Marsden is currently sitting at 1.09. And very little rental stock available for the suburb. In terms of price growth, we're seeing the median growth there. And look at the price growth over the last year, the last 2 years in the suburb, quite phenomenal. So you're investing not necessarily if you're looking for an investment side of it, where you want to live, but where you can get the best return. So that's the estate in the little red dot on the right hand side. So that big industrial complex we talked about is just on the left there, Christmead. You've got the Logan Hospital, train station comes through there, and Griffith University TAFE, so all very close. So the process for today, so we're going to be offering these properties, so come and see us. So we're just going to briefly run through a process of securing a property. So we select the property, secure it, it's very safe, we have a finance clause in there, only $1,000 to secure it for what's called an expression of interest. Once we reserve that property, then we have the contracts, so the finance specialist can do the loan application. We go through finance approval, we call unconditional. So that's the date we know it's pretty much going ahead. We settle on the land, and then the builder will just plans, go to council, the builder will give us a site date, a start date, and then we only pay the builder in progress payments. So we're not paying the whole fund up front. Now the other benefit with house and land, I'm not sure everyone's aware, if you're new to property investment, you pay a higher stamp duty rate on investment property than your own home. The good thing about house and land is you only pay the stamp duty on the investment rate at the land value. So you're saving around about 50% of stamp duty, which is quite.
So can you say that again? So say if I buy a home 800,000, I'm paying stamp duty on the whole 800,000. If I buy a brand new one, I only pay the stamp duty on the land value, which is around what?
Yeah, so if it's 400 for the land, 400 for the build, you're only paying stamp duty on the 400,000.
Well, that's the other advantage then.
So build the home, we have the finance takes care of the progress payments, so you're only building very safe there because the bank will only, we're not paying it, the bank's paying the builder in progress payments. So those progress payments go through and then we get to what's called practical completion, that's when the home's finished. fit for occupancy, and then part of my process is always to get an independent inspector in to check the property and give it a two-stage inspection to make sure it's 100% before we hand it over. And then on that second PC, when the builder's got that first report from the independent inspector, the builder will go back and rectify those defects, and then we'll get a final handover, we'll get the keys, they'll go to the property manager and start the leasing the property and get some income. So it's a very straightforward process, and it's very safe for you as an investor. So hope everyone's enjoyed the presentation. We will have properties available. I'm just going to hand over now to Bradley Wallace, our finance specialist, and he's going to just run through the figures in the finance.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I don't know how to use this.
Right hand side to focus.
I'm going to want to do the technology. So thanks guys. Thanks Geoff and Don for inviting me here today. So I'm Bradley. I'm the Director, Senior Mortgage Broker here at Wallace Finance. I've helped quite a few of Geoff's clients in this exact strategy that we're talking about today. So I don't have much time because I'm sure everyone wants to get on their bus and have a look at the property. So I'll get straight ahead. So this is what Wallace Finance does. So we basically do everything, and I just realised I haven't put construction in there. We do construction loans. So first home buyers, investment loans, that could be for property for shares. Subsequent home loans, so you could be downsized or upsizing. We do a lot of refinances, especially now with the rates being so high as they are. Consolidation, which we do as well to help with cash flow. We do a lot of self-managed fund stuff, low doc, alt doc, so they're mainly for our self-employed clients who don't have financials. And we do all the other stuff, personal loans, car loans, business loans, we do everything. Next one is interest rates. So as we know, rates have been on the increase over the last 12 to 18 months, and we've seen that subside a little bit over the last couple of months. So variable rates have stabilised, but what we are finding, the fixed rates for 1 and 2 years, just recently over the last week or 2 weeks, some lenders have actually increased their fixed rates for the 1 and 2 years. And only the last couple of days, the 3, 4 and 5 year fixed rates have actually reduced. So it's hard to know what that actually means, because it does mean what's happening globally in the economy and domestically as well. So variables, you'd have to be a mind reader to know exactly what the variable rates are going to do. A lot of the senior economists with a lot of the large banks are saying there may be another increase with some stabilisation in the short term, and hopefully some reductions end of next year or middle of next year. But again, it's really hard. I'm a mortgage broker, I'm not an economist, and it's so hard to know exactly what these rates are going to do. And borrowing options. So obviously with this kind of set up, this strategy, most lenders will go up to 90% inclusive of lenders' mortgage insurance. Some lenders will actually waive LMI based on what you do. So if you're a doctor or a specialist, they may be able to waive LMI, and we've done quite a few of those as well for some doctor clients. And most of the locations, especially Mars and anything in Southeast Queensland, there's not going to be an issue with doing this type of lending. When it comes to construction loans, which you guys will be doing, it is interest only during the construction period, and you can always extend that interest only until after construction, so while you're renting it out. And we can stipulate that during that process as well. So if you want to have a principal and interest afterwards, we can do that, or we can have it interest only just to help with cash flow. And obviously due lock and multiple tenants. Most lenders will accept this, so it will depend on the lender. Some lenders will use, say, 100% of the income, some will use 50%, some will use 80%. So it will depend on your own personal circumstances on what you do. But we can definitely find you a lender that will accept that income. So the most important way is how to increase borrowing capacity. So we're finding, especially nowadays, the rates are quite high, so it's harder to borrow the absolute maximum like you used to. So it's really important that you speak to a mortgage broker who specialises in this type of setup and who's got the experience. And we also want to make sure what you guys have currently, you're on a low rate, or the lowest rate possible. A lot of people don't look at their rates. So if you haven't looked in the last 6 to 12 months, you probably need to. If it's a high 6, it's too high. The other way that we can do it as well is we can consolidate some of your debt. So you may have a home loan and you may have a personal loan, 5 credit cards, car loans, everything. We can consolidate it into your home loan, and that will reduce your overall monthly repayments. And possibly as well, what we do, and we've done it before, is we can extend your loan term out as well for your current home loan. What that does is it reduces your repayments, and at the same time you might be able to cash out some of your money for your deposit for that purchase. But obviously you need to make sure that you speak to someone to make sure that that's the right thing for you guys to do. And why speak to a mortgage broker or myself? So experience with the Quality Finance, I've got 20 years worth of experience in finance. I've worked for large banks, smaller banks, a lot of banks. I've been doing this role now for 3 years. Investment strategy knowledge, we've helped many of Geoff's clients and other clients get into the kind of property that you guys are looking at today. And we also have over 40 lenders on the panel. So if you speak to your bank directly, they've got 2 products, it's fixed and a variable. It may not have an offset, it may have an offset. With myself, we have so many lenders with thousands and thousands of products. So you're more likely to get the product that actually suits your needs more than going directly to your bank.
I mentioned that it's really relevant to what you're talking about, really. Yeah. So I've always gone through a broker because the banks have one product. The bank's policies and products are always changing. So, and I've gone through multiple lenders. If it's a first tier lender or a second tier lender, I go where I can get the loan, the best possible offer. It's not always the best interest rate, but the best offer. So Bradley's helped a few of my clients, as he mentioned. We've actually got a co-living home under construction. One of my clients, Bradley, helped him with the finance. Now, he is a doctor and he bought the property in his personal name, and then the financial planner advised that we restructured and he bought under a company structure, under a trust, family trust. So which means we had to go back through and rechange the contracts. Now the land had gone up in the meantime. The builder and the developer could have cancelled those contracts because essentially we were changing the contract. But because of my relationship with the builder and the developer, we issued 2 new contracts, and Bradley was able to assist the client in changing the finance from a personal name into a family trust structure for tax and security reasons. So the importance of having a great broker, and Bradley made the entire process very seamless. In fact, the client was recently overseas for, how long was he away for? 6 weeks? Ages. And while the home was under construction, and there was no issue because Bradley had all the progress payments and everything under control. So it means you can go about with your family, day-to-day business, your day job, and you don't have to worry about those progress payments. So having a specialist, a good specialist, is really, really important.
And I'm not hard. We don't find deals hard. So you may have direct to the bank and they'll look, oh, it's a company I trust, or it's too hard. I love a hard deal. The best thing is getting a hard deal and getting it approved. So if most of your circumstances, there's going to be a solution. It may be a slightly higher interest rate, short term, but there's always going to be a strategy to get you, if that's the case, to get you out of that, to get you into more of a mainstream kind of lender. That's it. We're done. Thanks, guys. I'm going to be on the bus as well. I'm going to come back as well. So if you've got any questions.
So really, what's your turnaround period for someone to get a photo, please? So from the time you meet the client?
So once I speak to them, get the documents, I normally process it within 24, 48 hours. So when I do a pre-approval, it's a pre-approval and it's someone's actually assessed it. So you may go direct to your bank and they go, here's a piece of paper, you pre-approved. It's not really, they haven't verified your income, it hasn't gone to an assessor, it hasn't done anything. They're just saying, here, it's pre-approved to basically get you out of the office.
What was that case you mentioned the other day? You mentioned to me a case you did have approved within phenomenal 3 days or something, was it?
Is that one from my Facebook?
Yeah.
24 hours. So there are lenders on the panel that I can submit a deal in the morning and by the afternoon it's approved. I've got quite a few lenders that do that.
Wow.
Depends on the circumstances. There are some lenders that will take 8 days, 10 days, but it's relationships that I have with those lenders. So I will fully assess the application. So I will get your pay slips, all of your financials, and it will go to the bank and assess, we'll look at it.
And let me get this point right. The bank, you only get paid when you get the loan for the client, right?
Correct.
So therefore, he works with you 24/7. Okay, the bank manager starts work at 4:30. They work Monday to Friday. This guy works what?
All day.
There. Weekends.
I had 3 appointments last Sunday. Yeah. And I'm also self-employed. I work for myself, so
Yeah.
Cool.
I work when I need to work.
Yeah.
And we've had many conversations in the evenings about clients because something had to be decided or changed, as we've mentioned with finance. The banks are very difficult, so trying to deal with them on your own is a real challenge. The benefit of having an experienced broker is they can look at it all.
And negotiating rates and bank jargon. A lot of lenders will talk, a lot of internal talk. I know how to negotiate with all that kind of stuff, so that's why you would speak to a mortgage broker. For myself.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Bradley. Yeah, I can honestly say a broker
No, you go.
is very important, and I don't go to the banks, I go through a broker, so we're just going to cover.
Yeah, no problem. Yes, he's not just a man of finance, he's the man, so Bradley, thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Just quickly, I know just before you finish, Geoff, I know we're pretty excited to go and view the property, I know I am. Just a bit of a show of hands in regards to getting on the bus. We want to get as many as you on the bus as we can, so just a bit of a show of hands who's going to be jumping on that bus to...
It's going to be easier on the bus because where we're going to is an estate, and it's fairly narrow streets, so you're better off on the bus than
just
finding it.
parking, so...
Plenty of room on the bus.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, good one.
Hands up again, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep, perfect. 20. Yep.
So that's very exciting. We're all getting on the bus, so we're thinking the same similar wavelength, right? Let me explain the process. Geoff can assist me with. Now, when you see these properties or use the process, you sign an expression of interest form, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay, so you sign a form and it's just one page.
Yes.
With your name details on it, you're interested in lot 7 for argument's sake. How many days do you get to hold that property for?
Generally for the contracts, about 24 to 36 hours.
Okay, so then the Gary Home will issue your sale purchase contract, you sign it, they sign it, and then you got how long to arrange the finance after that?
Generally about 21 days.
Wow, 21 days. So that means whatever you're signing today, that means for the next 25 days, that lot is off the market, is that correct?
Correct.
Nobody can buy that lot, and if Bradley can't get you finance, what happens to the client?
So any deposit they've paid, which is minimal, as I said, $1,000, is fully refundable. It goes into a trust account, so it goes into the builders or the land developers trust account, and it's fully refundable, so there's no cost there. It's pretty good.
So what's your risk here? What are you fearful? Okay. Now when I was a baker, my day off is Monday. I go to all real estate agent and I practice signing contract. And I tell you what, you can practice signing contract today because you know that you don't get fined buying. But I was the other way. If the house was $50,000, I offer $25,000. I know I never buy the house, but I get to practice to sign contracts. Okay, so you secure the property, you hold it. The risk is not you. The risk belongs to the bank that assess your situation, you can afford finance or not. But this is the mistake most buyer will make. It's like this. Okay, say you see something that's really good, and you say, I've got to go home and ask my wife. Or I've got to go home and ask my father. And then they'll say, no, don't buy it. I've got to ask my neighbor. Oh, no, don't buy it. Okay, now you will go through and then you come back. I've got to get my finance approved for 21 days. You come back, the things are so out. Okay, the key here is secure the property, hold it. If you see something good, secure the property, hold it, and then sell it later. Okay. In some instance, somebody else might even just pay you more for that same contract because they really want it for some reason. Okay. So when I go and buy properties in my early day, I go and buy 10 at once through this development, and I had no money at the time, so I bought 10 for one. It was like only $195,000 then back in 2000. And then I went home and asked my wife, I said, hey, no, I just bought 10 properties. And I then knew they will double in value, so I'd become a millionaire. And then this really mean guy that I know, he said, well, you're not a millionaire yet because your wife's going to take half. Yeah, well, and he said, trust me, because I've been divorced 4 times. So then I took my wife with me and I said, let's go buy another 10, so you be a millionaire and I'm a millionaire. That's the secret of buying, guys. Secure it, eliminate it, take it off the market, have time to think about it. If your pet dies, for example, we'll cancel it because you can't get finance, okay? That's okay, because you've got 25 days.
Yeah, with that plan that you put up before, that's not a dual lock house, is it? That's just a standard.
It's standard, well, it's called a co-living. So the next slide, we're going to talk about other property options. So if I was going to buy my next investment property, co-living, because I built dual locks myself. We're all looking for that higher cash flow to overcome these higher interest rates that Bradley mentioned. So the co-living is different to the dual lock. The benefit of the co-living is you're getting that higher rental return, but it's not actually not that much more expensive than a standard home. And when you come to sell it, it's a 3 or 4 bedroom house. So you've got 2 end markets. You've got a potential investor to buy it for the higher rental yield, or you've got a home owner.
And you said there's only a certain amount of those blocks in each estate, but isn't that a normal house, so there should be unlimited?
No, because the developer will have a covenant in that estate.
Okay.
So the estate today, you'll see there's a mix of standard houses, dual locks, and co-living. Yeah, so they'll limit. Yeah.
So you actually have to, when you build, register it as like a co-living, like put a BA in for a co-living house?
It's registered as a 1A construction, so it's a standard 4-bedroom home, but the estate might have a covenant in the estate. So any build in that estate which protects the values and limits the amount of investors in it, which is a good thing.
Yep.
So the covenant may restrict the number, or even whether co-living can be built. Great question. So we thank you for your time that you're spending with us today. We do understand everyone's busy, but you know, like you saw those case studies where people are creating, you know, $100,000, $200,000 worth of equity without having to save it.
Yeah.
So in appreciation, we'd like you offer for anyone that secures a property today a free handover report. So that's at PC. We make sure an independent company goes through. You get the report. The report goes to the builder. They rectify all the defects, so you get back, you know, 100%. So for anyone that goes unconditional on the contract, we're offering a free 7-night holiday accommodation. So that's in Thailand. We've got the vouchers here. So if you want to read that, it's genuine. It's 7 nights, and you've got a choice of Bali, Thailand, or South Africa. So that's valued at $400. And Hayley's offered to kindly, thank you Hayley, in terms of the property management, go through our property management system. She'll offer 6 months property management free.
Geoff, I've just got another question over here from Michael.
Yeah, you're talking about the properties that have got the digital locks on the bedrooms. Does that therefore become a 1B property?
No, it's a 1A construction.
Because it's actually illegal to put locks on a bedroom door.
So you'll see when we go into today, those properties are leased out as a 1A construction with digital locks on them. So, and they're through the land, and they've got landlord's insurance. And you'll see a lot of the properties that are now got digital locks, obviously on the front doors. So there's a couple of things about the 1A construction for the co-living to get the landlord's insurance approved. So they had to have the emergency lighting, you know, through the hallway. So you'll see that in the room. So the builder can answer those questions today.
Because a 1B you're allowed to put locks, but 1A you're not.
Okay, so we're building this, as far as I'm aware. I'll check about that.
I see Gallery Hall has done research because they are obviously quite a big company. They are the one that's taking the risk on providing these products to the consumers. So I think that will be.
Yeah, so I'll check it out, but they're leasing them out and tenants are living in them.
You go through the fire and all of that sort of stuff with the 1Bs.
Sorry?
Because you've got separate tenancies living in the house.
Yep.
You've got to go through the fire information as well, and you've got to have maps of where people can go in the case of emergency.
Yeah, so that's a bit different because that's if you have a maximum of 3 tenants on one property, it's under the Standard Residential Letting Act. If you go to more than 3 tenants, then you go into that commercial area, you know, where you've got to have the exit doors and all that. So there is a difference. That's called rooming accommodation. So yeah, it is a different level. So that's why we put a maximum of 3 tenants in. It's a standard residential letting agreement. Good question. So that's the offer. So we're opening up the floor now. Just have a few questions coming in. So questions.
So with the co-living then, power, internet, water, is that all divided up by tenants or is that paid by the?
Great question, Nick. So the power, so the owner pays the power, but we put solar on the roof. So the ones that are leasing out now, they're finding it's costing the owner about $20 a week. So we factored it into the cash flow. In terms of the water, so the owner pays a base water charge like you would with a standard house, and then the water usage is divided up with 3 tenants. So again, it's just like a standard residential.
Geoff, these comes fully furnished, right?
Yeah, so in that price that we mentioned for the $740,000, and I've got specific properties, I've got all the numbers and the inclusion, so you come and see me if anyone's got questions about how they work and the numbers and things. So that $740,000 comes with a furniture pack. So the tenant moves in and the furniture's in place. The only thing essentially the tenant brings with them, apart from your clothing, is the mattress for hygiene. So they've got so we put a furniture pack in, so it's TVs on all the bedrooms in the living area, air conditioners on each bedroom. We make the bedrooms a bit a little bit larger, as you'll see, so they can have a study desk. And so yes, the finished pack, all the utensils are all included in, so that 740,000 was based on the land, the build and the finished pack.
And also the vertical blind package as well, you mentioned.
Yep, so we'll include the blinds, the curtains, and it's a turnkey product, so it's finished. So if you go to a land estate, you buy a block of land and then you go to a building, they'll do a build cost, and then you'll have to work on all the extras to get the property fully finished to move into. That price is what I call turnkey fixed price, so driveways, landscaping, fences, letterbox, everything ready to move in yourself and put the tenants in. So you know you can do your sums, cash flow based on that 740,000 if that was the turnkey price.
So when you're applying for a loan, the bank will generally want a document from somebody to say that you're going to get a higher rent. Do Remax provide that letter?
Yeah, so they can, or Bradley probably better off to answer because we do a lot of co-living and
Yeah.
occupancies.
Yeah.
So what proof do you need to the bank to say, well, I'm not getting 600 a week, I'm getting 900 because I'm doing this co-living thing? What do you need?
So normally it'll be a rental appraisal letter. So we can get a rental appraisal letter from, say, Remax or an agent acknowledging that. Normally if we get a valuation and it comes, the rental income comes on the valuation, the valuer won't do it as a co-living, they'll do it as just a standard house. So what we've had in the instance is we can get like a letter from the developer or the builder or from the land agent just saying what the build is, and we can kind of mitigate and say, well, this is what it's going to be. But also once it's built, we can just get lease agreements for each room.
Yes, I think it comes down to the lender. Great question.
Yeah.
Some lenders will take it into account, some will take the standard rent.
To be honest, most lenders will probably take it as just a normal house, but if it's required for serviceability, there's always ways that we can try and get around that. But historically, they would treat it as, the bank would treat it as standard until it's built, and then they've got confirmation from lease agreements. So ongoing for the next one, we can then use those lease agreements for each room.
Good question.
Yep. Okay, we've built the house, everything's ready. We need to find, well, really specialised tenants, isn't it?
Correct.
So who's going to find these? Do you find them?
So I organise the build, so we have a specialised property manager, because that's another good question. The property management for co-living is very specialised.
Yep.
So the property managers profile the clients now, because you've got to ensure that the three. So what we're looking from experience, and these are being built now, they're being leased out, and what we're finding is that when the company's advertising the property, the profile matching. So for example, if there's two women that have been approved for that property, and the third, they don't want a gentleman, a guy in the third property, they'll keep that tenant ready for the next one that's built. So there's a list. And if you supply and demand, if you go on real estate, flatmates.com, and look at the number of rooms available for lease, and then you look at the ones that are actually people looking. The last time I did one on the Gold Coast, there was about 3 people looking for every room available. So it's a very easy way to do your research on that. And again, as the demographics changing, we all know single people are really struggling now to get accommodation. You know, we hear in the news all the time about people being forced out of accommodation. You know, and unfortunately with the demographic, that changing demographic of single people, I think it's only going to get larger. You know, so yeah, good question. Any other questions? Sorry.
What's the selling point that puts you above something like an NDIS house?
Yep, good point. So good question, and we do look at NDIS, so I look at all high cash flow. So pros and cons, there's always pros and cons, so good question. So the NDIS property, the income gross yield can be very strong, but if you spoke, have you built one or spoken to anyone that's got one? So the challenge with NDIS, and I can secure it, the challenge with NDIS is it takes a lot longer on average to get a tenant because they're very specialised and they have to be approved. And from people I've spoken to that have built these NDIS type properties, it takes a long time for the income to come up. Once the income's in place, it's strong, but it takes a long while to get there. And the other thing is when it comes to resale value, which is important, if you're selling an NDIS property, it's much more specialised. So the bathrooms are different, the rooms, so it's not like a traditional house. The benefit of the co-living is you can stay as a 3 or 4.
What's the NDIS? I mean,
It's the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Okay.
So it's for people on disabilities.
Yeah.
So it's a government-funded scheme. So you you'd only build them where there's demand. So if you said, I only want to buy on the Gold Coast or Logan or Brisbane, you're very limited because you've got to make sure there's demand for the NDIS. But we know for this the demand is there, you know. But so, yeah, pros and I hope that's answered the question. Sorry?
Just a question for maybe Hayley. Is Hayley managing any of these types of properties already? And what sort of challenges are you having with these type of tenants? I'm just trying to picture who looks after the common area. Do you get a cleaner to do the common area and they look after their own rooms? If you're effectively managing 3 property issues in one property. So you've got one tenant that could upset the other 2. How does all of that work, the dynamics of that?
Thank you for giving me time to finish my carrot cake. But no, you're right, you
So
absolutely
are you
are.
managing some of these?
And we do have some of the rooming accommodation tax properties as well, so happy to kind of chat with you about that. We also own a Remax business in Mackay, and we do a lot of that, as you can appreciate up there. There's a lot of single person demand because it's such a transient mining space. So we've got lots of single guys, their families live down here and they're moving up and down for work. So we do quite a bit of that. You're right, it is more work, absolutely, and we do have people in and out quite frequently. The demand is definitely a big thing, and one of the things that Geoff probably didn't put in there so eloquently, or like he didn't mention, is that sadly, some of it will be like mum and dad will break up, dad will leave the family house, he leaves the family and all the furniture and all the bits and pieces there. Where's he gonna live? And that's a perfect, situation for him. He can buy a mattress, move into somewhere like that from a co-living perspective, and he's happy, and he's, in a nice place, so he's not feeling like, he's taking this massive kick in the guts of having to move out of the family home, as well. And obviously happy to be able to afford the rent at $300 a week. If he moves into a standard rental, say it's a 2-bedroom unit that by chance we can get him approved for because he does have enough income to make the difference after his maintenance and after his other things. The sad part is that that's a really normal reality in our society now. And from a real estate perspective, often they're great tenants, they have absolute affordability, they have all of those things, but the measure of somebody's affordability in their standard rental is 3 times their income. So if they're making, if they're renting $600 a week and it's just a one person, it's really hard to get the average person that type of affordability or to get them approved at that affordability. Whereas, this option is a great option for them there. And in places like the Reglands or Logan, in different areas around the north side where it's doctors and it's nurses, it's lots of single people that are moving specifically for work, absolute need. But they also tend to be great tenants because we're not talking about renting out to like 19-year-old kids that are first out of home. That's probably not what we would select. Ultimately, it is your decision as the landlord, but that conversation is there. We would say, look, we've got 4 applicants for this property. We've got a guy that's just moved out around the corner. He wants to stay close to his family. We've got, these guys are 19, and I don't want to be ageist here, but it's your choice. It's your investment property. But we certainly would give our opinion on the types of people that we prefer to see in these rentals, because if it's a problem for you, it's also a problem for us. So kind of making smart decisions around those tenants that you put in there, is important, but definitely more work.
I forgot to mention that.
So who's managing the common area? So for us, it might be that you have a cleaner that goes into your cost as well. So you might have a cleaner that goes in at $150 a week. They clean all the common areas, and the tenants all pitch in an extra $10. So those types of things are quite flexible. Some owners will pay for a cleaner and a gardener. And again, you just accommodate them in numbers based on the types of property, the types of clientele, and go from there. It's about the economics of it, right? If I was renting in one of those properties, I'd happily throw in an extra, $20 or $30 a week to have my room cleaned and our common areas cleaned.
And I have had some spoken to the ones that have been rented out now, the co-living on that. So what they're doing generally as a property manager, so 3 guys, and they are shift workers or working at the factory, and they don't want to clean. They can pay the cleaner to come down and do the internal cleaning, and if say it's $50, they pay a third of that each. And it's the same if there's females in the room co-living, and they don't want to do the lawns. The property manager can organise a gardener, and they pay $30, $50 a fortnight. They pay that third share, so the tenants have a choice of that. So they ask them up front. So that's a good point.
So is a general lease still 6 months with these co-living properties?
I would always always advise 6 months to start with, just because you want to make sure you've got a great tenant. And then after that, 12 months, absolutely. But knowing, with the new legislation that's come in with minimum housing standards, you want to make sure that, like if it is $300 a week that we are going to be charging them, or $320 or whatever it may be, you've got to wait 12 months before you can change that now. So something also to keep in consideration as the markets change, just keeping in line with that Queensland legislation.
And you find most people happy with that 6 month lease, even though it might be a little bit transient, who you leasing to?
Yeah, I think if we were concerned that we have no one to rent it, that would be more of an issue. The concern, with the tenants is usually about stability, and sometimes if they are a more transient tenant, like, if you've got a doctor, for example, that moves there because they've moved from out of town, they've taken one of those roles, they've been cherry-picked from New Zealand to come here. The reality is that they'll often say to you, hey, this is my circumstance, and you can assess that. Just because it's our recommendation to start them on 6 months to make sure that they're happy with it doesn't mean you have to go with that. You never really clean strategy. Lots of people will lock in for 2 years because they want to have that absolute certainty at the start, particularly if they're a bit of a nervous first-time investor. But yeah, it really depends on the person.
So generally, I'm thinking more of maybe a less, that somebody's going to want a less lease in 6 months just because of their situation or where they're in.
Yeah, usually that's not something that we would offer them, just for your security as a landlord, and also because we often would question why they want it for 3 months or whatever. That's short-term accommodation, so again, it comes like to another, that's more of an Airbnb situation again.
What I'm finding is most tenants will be on for at least 6 months because they know how hard it is to get a rental. Like Vicky mentioned, I mentioned my daughter, they can't get a rental accommodation on a single income, so they want longer the better.
I noticed it's not recommended to take a 2 years lease, because right now I know some of the owners, they try to break the lease because they can increase the rent because of the demand. So 6 months, 12 months is a good term. 2 years is not recommended because a lot of people lock tenant in for 2 years now. The rent's gone up this much more. They can't increase the rent, especially in the Gold Coast area here. So hey, the question is, how often can you increase the rent? Once you say I sign up for 500, when can I increase my rent?
So every year you're able to do it now. So if you're a new tenant, that's fine. But if you are an existing tenant, you can only make one increase a year. Thank you, Anastasia.
Question?
How do you get on when you've got 3 separate tenants in the same place? They're all moving in and out at different times.
Yeah.
So one person paying a lot more rent than the one in the next bedroom.
They typically pay the same. So we've like set one, it might be that they've been there for say 2 years and their rent is set at $320, new tenants coming in are at $340. Like it's no different than living in a unit complex. Like one of the like co-living spaces that we manage in Prospect Street, they're all on slightly different variations because some of them have been there for 7 years or 8 years, and that is their house, that's their home. So, to your point around, how they get on and, moving backwards and forwards, we just ask them to be considerate, and to be fair, it's no different than having a tenant in a property where they've got a neighbour.
So you wouldn't really worry about the weighted average leases for expiry?
Can you explain what you mean there?
So, as he's saying about when someone's moving in and out, and how long you're going to actually have somebody in there completely, or how much you're actually going to receive for the house.
Yeah. Oh, I think the vacant, like when you have that overall, you have people that are coming in and going out, but the vacancy time frame is the important thing, right? So it's like you're gonna have, you might have somebody coming and going, but they're turning that around in 2 days. So it's not like you're not going to have it vacant for months or weeks, or the risk is smaller because I guess the need is higher. Like when you look at the types of people that are in and out of those properties, as you said, that 3-to-1 ratio, there is a lot of people. Whereas like if you were looking at $1,000 a week house, you might have far less people that can afford $1,000 a week to the amount of people that
So Haley, when a tenant, say for example, moving out the next 30 days because his lease is up, you're going to be advertising for that tenant already, right? Not like when they move out.
Absolutely, yeah.
You already have pre-approved tenants to take over the day they move out.
And just like a normal rental property, we'd expect like 2 to 3 days as far Emma's been a property management and property manager in our business for 8 years, and she's just gone away on maternity leave. She comes back in 28 days, everybody. But she would kill me if I said to people that they'd be in and out on the same day, because that's a lie. You know, like a couple of days is reasonable. That's time for us to go in, check it, make sure that they're, you know, that they've looked after the property, release their bond, and ensure that everything's perfect and cleaned up for you. So.
Does premium AV conceived grade office buildings in the city, you've got to worry about the layout, which is what I was talking about. But when it comes to industrial, the vacancy rate is so low that you'll have 15 people trying to come into that property before the person has even moved out.
And the difficult part is like risk and reward, right? Like, you know, like commercial and industrial can be extremely rewarding, but it's also really high risk from a vacancy perspective.
It's also 65% LVR of millions of
So,
dollars.
let me explain that, the question the gentleman is asking. When you own 15, 20 properties, you can afford to go to commercial because your residential will cover your risk of vacancy. Okay, so that's the next level up. Okay, the first level was to get the residential. Once you own 15, 20 or 10 of them, you've got enough cash flow that you go buy a commercial property, you need more money. Tenant goes broke, you can afford to renovate it commercial and then release it again. So that is like monopoly, really. You know, you start little houses, and you go to commercial, you go to hotels. So these are the different increments of investment stages. Some of you might already at that level right now, which is great, but if you haven't, you've got to start here. Now today we are pushing co-living. When you go to these estates, there's also 30 more existing houses that you can buy with 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. Exactly in the same estate. The only reason why we push the co-living is we see this as a fast track of your wealth creation. That's all. Because there's only 7 of them in one estate, for example, but there's like, how many in that estate we go?
In the total stage is about 30 in the next stage.
Right. So 30 properties, only 7 available.
Yep.
So that means 23 other ones you can buy normally and put a family in. Okay, that's all. So these are just hand-picked investment to help you to fast track. Now imagine in 10 years time, your neighbor comes on the market, a 3-bedroom house, 2 bathroom, double garage. Your same co-living goes on the market, 3 bed, 3 bath, study, double garage. Grown-up family wants to buy the home. Teenagers, 18, 20, 25. Maybe married, staying in the same house, which one would they choose? If you put both of them on the market in 10 years time. That will define your investment decision.
So you get into capital growth because it's essentially a standard home with extra bathrooms. So as opposed to commercial where you're limited to buyers, benefit of this is a standard home. You can always rent it back to a family if you wanted to. So if the family had teenage children, they're all working, they're prepared to pay, $900 a week, absolutely. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the cash flow coming in from the property, plus you get the capital growth of a standard home. So that's the benefit. And that's the good thing about the digital locks on the front doors. So tenants, you asked that question about people coming and going, so just give them access. If you've got a tradesperson coming in, no one has to be home, you give them the code for the day, get the tradesperson and fix the appliance and then change the code the next day. And same when the tenant moves out, just change the code so they can't. So it's a lot more secure. And more cost effective for you as the investor because you're not paying a locksmith to go out and change the locks, If the tenant's lost the key or the tenant's moved out of the property and not returned the keys, it's very easy with the digital system. So. Any other questions coming through? Question? Okay, we'll just check. I'll just quickly go through the next slide. So as I mentioned, we're talking about co-living today, but we also have other property options available as well. So co-living wasn't your appetite, and you're looking at full offer standard home. Here we can help you with that as well. So we've got a list of properties available today. We'll offer that agreement on. So you come and see me. Welcome to have a discussion. If you want to go and see Bradley about the finance, you're not sure how you position, go and have a chat to him. If you have questions on property management, go and see Hayley. Going to wrap up, Don, we'll just go and check on the transport situation.
Right. Well, I guess I drive around the world a lot now, and I work it out that I meet quite a few billionaires and billionaire that owns like 26 companies. 126 companies, 26,000 employees, and I work it out that we all human beings. It doesn't matter how rich or poor we are. It's up to our mind how we make decision making to go forward. My family is made up of almost 100 people now in Auckland. I'm an uncle of 60 or so nephew and nieces. I'm a family of 7. Through property investment, I have created all my family to be millionaires. Okay, my family is now probably if you look at the number of property, they're probably on the most per family right now in Auckland, in the Vietnamese community. They not only own just properties, they own shops, they own commercials through investment properties. My sister, she's 2 years older than me, and I tell you a story about my sister. I read an article about this very wealthy man, and they say that, hey, you sold a house to your mother and you make money on your mum. And then the reply to the guy reply was, yes, I bought it for $350, I sold it for $400, in return she sold it for $550. If I see another deal, I will do it again. So my experience is like in our family, we don't deal with each other or friends. So I saw that article, so I ring my sister up, and I went and saw her. And I sold her over the space of 7 years, probably 30 properties. She's 2 years older than me. She's got 5 kids, lives in a mansion right now, drive a Bentley, her husband drives a Range Rover, and they're retired. I'm still working. So that was a story, and then we got a quick chat with today, Charlie Wong. He worked for McDonald's for so many years. He used the McDonald's system so much, and I'm really inspired by what he says. So if you guys want to get in the McDonald's system, he's the man. But I tell you a story about a McDonald's owner that I know. In 1996, I sold this man one house for $75,000. Okay, $75,000. He was working for McDonald's, him and his wife, and they just had a baby girl. Like the baby opened, right? They had a baby in the basement, in Mango, very low cost area. As time goes by, when he became the manager at McDonald's, I sold another house to get more income. His first 75 probably got 150, and then he became the general manager of the store. I sold another property, and then later on become the area manager for Auckland. So in the space of 7 years, I sold 7 properties. Now, as you know, in the McDonald's system, you want to buy a McDonald's, you got to work for McDonald's, and you got to know all the system. You got to do the grill, the fry, the cleaning, and the burgers, and all sorts of things. You got to go through all of that. Now, he obviously worked for McDonald's for that long. Opportunity come up from the buyer of McDonald's. He was able to mortgage some of his property, sell some of them off, and buy his first McDonald's. Okay, then bought a second McDonald's. And I sold more properties. These days he buys that 10 property at a time. And then today he owns 3 McDonald's, employing over 350 staff. Going back to 1996 from this one little $75,000 house. That is the power of small increment, what he calls greater success. So you've got to start somewhere. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm looking forward to talk to you today more. And thank you for accepting us Kiwis from
Right, okay, our bus is ready to roll. So if anyone would like to use the bathroom, let's or have a drink of water or something, let's do that. But the bathroom is straight across the hall outside here. Grab some water and we'll line up, get up out the front and jump on the bus and go and view this project.
Sandwich over here.